want to talk about what I'm calling the ministry of inclusion. It's interesting that right now I'm working on a sermon about Epiphany. I grew up in a church where we had a very limited ecclesiastical vocabulary. I never heard of words like Epiphany or Advent or Lent. What we celebrated is one day of Christmas, maybe with the choir singing the week before, and then one day of Easter, and that was it. Now, we did celebrate things like the 4th of July, but these things are not in the Christian calendar. They are things that we celebrate because they have become important to us. So when I began preaching, it's interesting how my preaching was not as inclusive of things as I wanted it to be. For example, Epiphany, which occurs about 2 weeks after Christmas Day. Epiphany is the revelation of God to people. And particularly, what we are celebrating on Epiphany is the revelation of God to the Gentiles. Whatever we call the Magi, the wise men, the 3 kings, probably they were astrologers who studied the stars and on this one evening saw a very bright star that led them to Bethlehem. Where is he who is born King of the Jews? It's interesting in the book of Acts that the beginning of deacons occurs when there is a problem in the church. And here's the problem. For so long, the church had been composed of Jewish people who were following Jesus as the Messiah. All of a sudden, Gentiles were becoming a part of the church. And the leaders of the church, the apostles, said, we have so much to do, to study, and to be ready to talk with you and to share with you. We need for you to give us some help because we're having complaints in the congregation. The Jewish widows are being taken care of, but the Greeks are saying to us that their widows are being overlooked. So the first deacons were formed to try to remedy this issue of exclusion. The ministry, what I'm calling the ministry of inclusion, that everybody, not just certain people, not just certain groups, not just certain folks who've been in the church for a long time, but I'm talking about every single person is as important as any other person in that congregation. The ministry of inclusion. It's all right for you and me to have friends in the church. I'm not talking about do away with your friends. What I'm talking about is expanding the base of your friends. Oftentimes, those who are our friends, they get taken care of in their needs. But sometimes those who are not so close to us, and we don't pay as much attention to them as we should. Those people feel left out. And the apostle said, we need some servant leaders who are going to realize that as our church reaches out to different people and different groups, that we want to make sure that to every single one of them, the ministry of Jesus Christ is given. That's why in a short while after Christmas, we'll be celebrating Epiphany. Whoever these people were, they were Gentiles. These wise men, magi, three kings, whatever you want to call them, the important thing was they were the first Gentiles to become a part of the Christian story. And the reason we celebrate Epiphany, the reason we have servant leaders like you, is to make certain that there is nobody, whoever they are, nobody who is omitted from the care, the love, and the ministry of the church.